Ukraine outsmarts Russia's air defenses, erasing S-400 radar factory in $620 million strike. Today, following a Russian missile strike on a newly rebuilt children's hospital that Moscow believed would intimidate civilians, Ukraine delivers a calculated response that reshapes the war's balance, inflicting $620 million in Russian losses during a single, tightly coordinated strike. What begins as that attack on civilian infrastructure instead becomes the catalyst for an operation that exposes every weakness in Russia's air defense grid. A swarm of small carbon fiber drones, built in workshops rather than factories, outmaneuvers a multi-layered security system designed to protect one of Russia's most valued industrial assets. Tonight, the collapse of a radar production line sends a shockwave through Russia's strategic posture. To understand how this turning point unfolded, the narrative returns to the first moment of movement. At 2:14 a.m., the city of Tula, 310 miles from the Ukrainian border, falls into darkness. Along the Upa River, 14 Ukrainian FPV drones skim the water at 124 miles per hour, each weighing only 44 pounds. They fly at an altitude of just 8 feet, their prop wash brushing the cold river surface. These drones are modified variants built to merge stealth with speed, and their approach path takes advantage of the river's deep cut through the terrain. 60-foot earthen embankments rise on both sides, creating a natural trench where radar beams cannot penetrate. As the drones advance, night shift workers at the Sheglovsky Val plant, Russia's last surviving facility capable of producing S-400 radar systems, have 43 minutes left before the structure that took 12 years to build becomes a burned skeleton. The entire Ukrainian swarm costs $490,000, but it is moving toward equipment valued at $500 million. At 3:10 a.m., inside the climate-controlled cabin of a Big Bird series surveillance radar, a rotating green sweep line paints a calm, empty sky. The system can track up to 300 airborne objects simultaneously, from low-flying aircraft to high-altitude cruise missiles. Yet the major assigned to the console is fighting exhaustion rather than intruders. He sips lukewarm tea, convinced that no threat can pass through Tula's radar coverage. Physics disagrees. 3 miles away, the Ukrainian drones remain below his detection threshold. Their 8-foot altitude and the river's steep embankments bounce the radar's electromagnetic waves upward, returning only harmless ground clutter. For a moment, one drone, number 7, exposes a wingtip as it banks too sharply around a bend. A single pixel flickers on the radar. The fatigued officer assumes it is wildlife. Within seconds, the anomaly disappears as the drone's flight computer corrects its role. The sky returns to calm. The Major resumes drinking his tea, unaware that he has just failed to detect the most consequential breach of Russian airspace this year. At 3:15 a.m., 17 miles from the target, Russia's second defensive layer activates. A Krasuka 4 electronic warfare system surges to full power, flooding the region with jamming energy strong enough to blind AWACS aircraft and disrupt satellite links. Inside the EW vehicle, a technician watches a spectrum analyzer spike into the red. He grins, convinced the Ukrainian drones are now crippled, GPS fried, control links severed, navigation systems confused. In his mind, the drones will soon corkscrew helplessly into the snow, but the drones do not falter. The jamming triggers a programmed failsafe. Their GPS receivers disconnect, and their onboard processors shift to optical navigation. Belly-mounted cameras open, scanning the moonlit terrain below. The software instantly identifies a defining visual landmark: the high-contrast silver lines of 110 kilovolt power transmission cables leading towards the city. The drones snap into formation, align with the power grid infrastructure, and descend to 50 feet, weaving through steel pylons as if following a luminous path. Inside the Krasuka 4 cabin, the technician's smile fades as 14 hostile returns appear on the radar feed, zigzagging with deliberation, faster and more controlled than before. The jamming has not blinded the drones, it has sharpened them. At 3:19 a.m., a new threat suddenly appears. 3 radar contacts erupt to the southwest, each flying at 2,600 feet with electronic signatures identical to Storm Shadow cruise missiles. Panic spreads through the defensive ring. Air raid sirens howl. 4 Pantsir S-1 systems and 2 Tor M2 missile vehicles pivot their turrets toward the false threat. Inside one Pantsir cabin, a 20-year-old gunner hyperventilates as he prepares to fire. He cannot know the truth. The missiles detected on radar are nothing more than $500 plywood decoys equipped with corner reflectors and small boosters. For 68 seconds, the night erupts in blinding fire. Pantsir cannons and interceptors streak upward, filling the sky with explosions. Dozens of 57 E-6 interceptor missiles fire in a desperate attempt to neutralize the supposed high-altitude threat. Clouds of smoke choke the air inside the cabins, yet the crews celebrate, convinced they have defended the factory from one of NATO's most dangerous munitions. The young gunner slaps the shoulder of his crewmate, relieved the crisis is over. He does not realize the cost. In that 68-second window, Russia has just wasted tens of millions of dollars in interceptor missiles, a significant portion of tonight's $620 million total loss. And while every radar and every eye was pointed southwest, the real Ukrainian drones slipped silently through the undefended northeast corridor. They are now just 5.5 miles from the perimeter, flying low, unnoticed, and fully armed. At 3:22 a.m., the defensive fight shifts from machine calm to human panic. The factory's outer layer is defended by 450 troops from the Russian National Guard. They are already rattled by the earlier decoy strike. Suddenly, 4 lead FPV drones pitch upward from treetop level and climb to 80 feet. They do not attack. Instead, they activate heavy external loudspeakers. A deep rhythmic thump rolls across the compound, the unmistakable acoustic signature of a Kar-52 Alligator attack helicopter. Confusion fractures the defensive line. Soldiers shout. Searchlights sweep frantically, unsure whether the helicopter is friendly, hostile, or a Ukrainian impersonation. The troops fire upward in disorganized volleys. While attention is fixed on the sky, drones 5 and 6 descend. They detonate smoke generation warheads tuned with high-temperature oxidizers that burst into columns of black chemical fog at 1,000 degrees Celsius. The thermal bloom blinds every night vision device and every infrared scope. The guards cough and stumble, unable to see more than a few feet ahead. Sensor blindness spreads through the perimeter in under a minute. In the thick smoke, the remaining drones advance through a battlefield where defenders no longer have functional optics. At 3:24 a.m., the final heavy defender, a Tor M2 system in the southeast corner, attempts to regain control. Its gunner stares at a thermal monitor washed out by white heat. He is unable to acquire any targets, and reports that no contacts are visible, and that the sensors appear burned out. Sweat drips onto the console as he struggles to adjust the controls. Before he can realign, 4 Ukrainian drones plunge vertically from the smoke. Their tandem charge warheads strike the roof of the Tor M2, penetrate the thin top armor, and destroy the crew and electronics instantly. The turret lifts from its ring in a burst of pressure and lands upside down in the snow. The last barrier is gone. 8 drones remain. They accelerate toward the final 400-meter kill zone. At 3:25 a.m., the remaining defenders attempt improvised measures. One soldier throws a roll of manual chaff, thin strips of aluminum meant to confuse radar, an act more symbolic than effective. A DSHK heavy machine gun rips through the darkness, its 12.7mm rounds punching holes through the wing of the lead FPV. Yet the drone corrects its ailerons and continues forward. It cannot feel fear, cannot hesitate, and cannot retreat. A conscript fumbles with his radio, reporting in panic that the drones are already over their position. His voice cracks into static. The buzzing grows louder, then disappears into the whistling descent of terminal attacks. At 3:26 a.m., the final strike lands. 8 Ukrainian FPVs slam into the radar assembly hall. Their copper-lined warheads invert into jets of molten metal, traveling 8,000 meters per second. The beams punch through steel walls, melting calibration equipment essential for S-400 guidance. High voltage capacitors erupt. Fires spread across production bays. The facility transforms into a 3000-degree furnace, consuming 12 years of Russian industrial investment in less than a quarter of an hour. By sunrise, the smoke begins to dissipate, but the strategic impact grows. 62% of Russia's high-end radar production capability has been erased. The Kremlin orders the withdrawal of 11 S-400 battalions from the Donbas and Kherson fronts to protect its remaining factories, an emergency measure that leaves frontline Russian troops exposed. Ukrainian F-16S and Storm Shadow missiles now operate in airspace, once heavily restricted, turning a single deep strike operation into a theater-wide shift in air superiority. Tonight's calculated Ukrainian response is estimated to have cost Russia $620 million in destroyed assets, wasted interceptors, crippled infrastructure, and degraded defensive strength. Yet the financial loss is only part of the damage. The psychological shock is profound. Footage of Russian troops firing blindly into smoke spreads across social media, accompanied by a stark message. When half-billion-dollar defenses face garage-built drones, the myth of invincibility collapses. This operation also leaves an unresolved strategic dilemma. With the last 8 drones still in the air, a choice between striking a warehouse of missile warheads to create a crater visible from orbit, or targeting secondary radar storage to plunge the region into deeper blindness would have determined whether maximum physical destruction or long-term degradation of Russia's air defense network took priority. Future briefings will examine alternative targeting strategies and assess which options would have imposed the greatest additional cost on Russia's air defense grid. Share your strategy in the comments below, and one response will be featured in the next briefing.